I've always believed, and it's always been taught to me that artists will make art out of anything. It could be paint. If paint's not available, they'll draw. If drawing's not available, maybe they'll sculpt out of mud, or like Duchamp made art out of everyday materials. So it wasn't that shocking to me that artists were making art out of Lego. The thing that I was surprised at is the number of artists that are working with Lego.
I tend to build big. That is a little bit of my signature, that I build large pieces. When I made the Ohio Stadium, I could have made it 2 by 3 feet, but I made it 6 by 8 feet, and there's just not a lot of people that build these large-scale creations. The horseshoe shape is like semi-oval, but there's no two angles the same, so every section of stands had a different angle towards the field. And having all rectangular bricks available and no like round or triangular ones available, that was extremely challenging because every section of stands had to have a different angle, yet the outside of the stadium had to look smooth and round. So that was a tremendous challenge designing it and building it. I think I spent as much time tearing down sections that I've been actually building it up because I wasn't happy. So when I finally finished it, I didn't think I was gonna outdo myself anytime soon. But I've started on another project that is maybe not as challenging, but I think it's going to be just as interesting. But since I'm only halfway, I'm a little bit hesitant to show the progress on it because it's not finished yet.
When I'm building these heads, I'm building like 14 of them because that's how many I want to finish in the end. So it takes a while to figure the first one out, but once I figured it out, how to build it, it's just a lot of repetitive motions. So as I'm doing the next series of heads, like the next 10, I'm just thinking about typically stuff at work. So we have a new project going on in my lab where we study heart muscle research. We're trying to come up with a new method to measure some interaction between the contracting cells. So to find these new interactions, we need to come up with new protocols and new ways of measuring stuff. So as I'm down here, I'm always thinking of how can we improve on the measurements we have, how can we design the experiments that would tell us the best information about how to proceed with the project. So as I'm just repetitive doing the same motions building my Lego sculptures, I'm typically thinking about work protocols.
Paul is a very successful scientist. He does research. I'm sure he conducts experiments, and he's to do his work. I don't know if he would see it this way exactly, but to do his work, he has to be creative and he has to be innovative. And to be successful as a scientist, you need creative thinking. And so it seems to me, fitting that then he would have something that is more than a hobby, I would say. It's this other thing that he does where he's exploring creative thinking. Now that he settled on Legos as his medium also makes sense to me because Lego is I would say it's kind of a technical medium. You're given a set of bricks that have certain limitations. The shape, is a limitation. The way that they connect is a limitation. How strongly they hold together once they are connected. There's all these kind of like set parameters to Legos that then artists can explore and play with and test. And so it makes sense that a scientist would be attracted to Legos, I think.
people have asked me, like, you still play with Legos as well? Well, you can say play, but we can also say art medium. Like, if kids use their crayons, they just make drawings. If adults use crayons, it's art. And I think it can hold the same as true for Lego. So for adults to play with Lego, it's maybe just not naming it play, but actually using Lego in a creative way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be play. It can be fun and it can be play, but it can very well also be engineering feats or artistic feats that are just using these Lego bricks and plates and different Lego elements as an art medium rather than as a toy. But since it is Lego, it always has this annotation of it looks like a toy, and therefore it must be childish. But that's not the case, I think, and most of well, I probably believe all the adult fans of Lego will agree with me, that Lego is not simply just a toy. It can be a creative outlet medium, an art medium, an engineering medium to display talents of adult builders.
Elephants are very good swimmers. They can actually swim for miles using their trunk. Over in Africa or Asia, if they have to go from island to island, they can actually use their trunk as a snorkel and go for miles.
Often when I would tell people I'm in an adult Lego club, they sometimes have a reaction like, really, is that a thing? And mainly it's because these people often, or people that are wondering about whether this is like a legitimate, regular hobby or if this is a normal hobby even, they typically haven't seen our displays. Once they see our displays, they realize that it's not just some building of multicolored bricks that then somewhat resemble a house like they remember from their childhood how they would build. But once they see what talented adults actually can build with these multicolored bricks, they have a much different perception. So the adult Lego hobby is really something you have to see. You have to see the creations. You have to see what the detail that people can put in this using Lego bricks as an art medium. And it's extremely difficult to explain in words, similar to you can really not express music or a painting. You can't really tell someone how great a song is without letting them hear the song. Or you can't tell someone how great a painting is without actually showing them the painting or part of it. And the same thing holds true, I think, for Lego creations. You really have to see it to actually get what's neat about it. And once these, let's say, call them skeptics, see the creations, they're a lot more adaptive to accepting it as a real legitimate like hobby or even art form.
So when the COLTC puts together all of their individual pieces into one big installation, that's when you really get the sense of the scale of their installation, because they go big and they do really big installations. And also when you're standing in front of it, I noticed myself and everyone else that saw it really looking closely at all the little scenes that are happening on the streets in the city. They usually put a lot of little minifigs acting out crazy little stories on the street. And when you're standing right in front of the real installation, you can really like peek around the corners of buildings and see these little stories happening. It really gets your imagination going. It's terrific. One of the funny things that they did at their installation here at the museum was that at the very top of one of the tallest skyscrapers, they put a Lego Batman figure, and it was really fun to see people, you know, as they're like looking around the city, and all they have to do is like look up a little bit, and then they would catch it, and it's like they found this little Easter egg, you know, and so that was really fun. And you know, there's no way you could experience that by looking at a photo of the city. You would have to be there in person, and you know, searching around, spending time with the work, and then you notice that little thing. It's a treat.
Most of us will actually walk around downtown and see buildings like, oh, that would look really cool on Lego. We look up and we see, oh, that's a really nice feature. I'd use this brick and this color, and that would work really well. Different members of the club, they have different building styles. I like to replicate buildings, but I also have done basically freestyle buildings. So I designed a building completely from scratch that is not modeled after any building. We have a few members in the clubs that will only make completely designed buildings. So they design their own buildings, they never model after an existing building. And we have members in the clubs that will do nothing else but just replicate the different trains. So the displays that we do, for instance, last week we were at the zoo, these displays are a dual purpose for us. One, we want to show off our creations, but also we want to inform both the kids and the parents that they can do amazing things with their Lego bricks. Most people actually have Lego bricks in their house. If they have kids, or if they are still kids, they most likely have a sufficient number of bricks to build really cool stuff. So when they come to our displays will then give them potentially inspiration to go home and build. And one of the most heard comments during our displays is like, oh wow, when we go home, let's build a city. Can you, Dad, can you help me build a city? Mom, can we get some more bricks? We wanna also build these neat things. So in our display, we typically do not use the sets as they come in the store. We have maybe one car or one train that you can just buy off the shelf. But typically all the creations that we use in a show are just fan-made. So they're made from scratch, from just a big pile of bricks, and then we put them together. Very lucky that we had about 9 members come set up, so we could do a larger setup. Here we have about 18 tables worth of creations. We're close to getting done. We put about 4 hours in today, and I think 1 more hour and we'll be done for today.
Yeah, we have a rough plan. So the initial part is trying to figure out where the roads and the buildings and all the other things are going to go. And that's actually a bit of a puzzle because people bring different things to every show, and so there's no one plan that we stick to. So sort of towards the end of that, it looks like utter chaos, and That's when I usually say, you know, this is not working. But then people start actually getting it together, and you say, wow, it's really nice. And then you work really hard, and you're getting it to almost done, and now you're really tired. Your back is hurting from bending over and all that. And then you have to do all the detailing. And you want to do that right because, you want people to say, wow, look at that. And you want to display some creative brilliance, shall we say. I try and make a story. I try and build a town that people would really live in, if that makes sense. I try and have food shops, and I try and have playgrounds and the human element. But you're really tired at that point, and so that's sort of where we are now on the thing. And we just do detailing until we drop, and then we go home.
It's also cool, every time we come to a display, one of our members will have made something new. So this time Matt built a new train station. Train station has a nice restaurant right next to it, like a 50s diner. It has a clock tower, so it's a real new creation we haven't seen yet. So I'm sure that the public is just as excited as us to see Matt's new creation.
It's what I've been building for the past 7 months. It's pretty much what you're looking at is the third version of kind of an ongoing project. I've kind of cobbled together a bunch of architectural styles from Swedish Art Deco to arts and crafts, but it's just been kind of like my little outlet when I get home at night and I build and tinker, and it's just not really anything built to a set plan, but it kind of whatever looks good, it fits in with what the club is trying to achieve. That's usually what'll stay.
Did it turn out the way you planned?
Yeah, I think so. I think it turned out better. There's always tweaks that you see in hindsight, but overall, the mechanical problems were solved, and as long as that's done, I'm happy, and I'm really stoked that it's done.
Did you run into any problems today?
Well, as we unpacked the trailer, a couple of the creations, they didn't survive the trip very well, so we had to rebuild one of the bridge sections. An arch that had to be reconstructed a bit in one of the buildings got crushed by another building as we were unpacking it, but that's just happens. We just put it back together, very close to the way we originally built it.
Well, so these artists were making incredibly complex Lego sculptures, but not gluing them together. And which was, when I first heard that, I thought it was a little crazy, right? Because in a museum, most of the things in a museum are built to last forever, or at least hundreds of years. But these Lego sculptures, a lot of them are ephemeral, and they're not meant to last for very long. It was explained to me that's because Legos are so expensive, and that the material that's used in any Lego sculpture, it can be reused for a different sculpture down the road. So I've been talking to artists who will build incredibly complex Lego sculptures, photograph it, document it, and then dismantle the whole thing to get ready for the next project. So in that case, it's probably because the material is so expensive and there isn't an infinite supply of Legos. But I think also it's interesting to me that Legos by their nature are modular, and they're meant to be put together and taken apart, moved around, and used in different ways. So it kind of makes sense that artists would have this kind of almost a philosophical belief in not gluing their Lego work together.
It doesn't always go well. Like we've had creations fall and they break. But the good thing about this is you can pick up the pieces and build it back. Often you don't build it back quite as you had it before. Sometimes it's actually even better. That doesn't give us a reason to smash whatever we make. But on occasion at shows it happens. Actually, every single show we have, either a train dive off the table or we knock over something and then we have to build it back. And that's the nice thing about the Lego bricks as a medium, since you can just snap them back together, even maybe slightly different, but you don't really lose them, you don't typically break them.
I think that a lot of people may not have expected to see an exhibition of art made out of Legos here at this particular museum. It was an experiment for us. You know, even to host that exhibition was it was a test. It was well, let's see what happens, and the response was phenomenal. You know, it was just like I said, it was very well attended. Had terrific crowds. People spent a lot of time in the exhibition. They really spent a lot of time looking closely at the work, which is a great thing. We like to see that. We like to see people really spending time and looking at work, because you know there's a lot of museums where there's just artwork on the wall and there's not much else in the museum to help visitors know what they're looking at or why they should be interested in it. Sometimes, you know, ancient art can seem really baffling. It's from some culture that, you know, has nothing to do, you might think that it has nothing to do with your current life, but it does. And so what we try to do in this museum is really help anybody who walks in the door to get something from the artwork, and we try to relate all the artwork in the museum to people's real lives. And Lego's a very direct connection to people. Nearly everyone's familiar in one way or another with Lego. You know, whether they have a kid that plays with Lego, or they played with Legos as a kid, you know, people have personal connections to it as a toy. So I think that you know, that's an easy way to get people interested. It's like, here's this thing that may mean a lot to you or to someone you know, and but here's some things being done with that toy that, you know, will blow you away.